Hi guys, it's Kay Comer in here with you today, and this is video number 3, book number 3, and this is From Grandma with Love. So let's just introduce this book just a different way. Pretend you're out walking in the woods and it's a cool fall evening. Maybe you're with your husband or your significant other and you're walking in the woods and you see this old cabin off in the distance and you want to go over and take a look and just see what's inside. I would have to do that if it was me. So you open the door and it's creaky and the floors are creaky and you can tell an old couple lived there decades and decades ago, but it's been long since left to be all alone all this time. So over in the far corner you're seeing a rocking chair, and it's an old rickety rocking chair that hasn't been used in decades, and beside that rocking chair on a little old wooden table is this book. So you walk over and pick up the book and you say to your husband or your significant other, "Oh my goodness, look at this book." So this is just the base of the book is paper bags. Once again, I love doing the paper bags. I've done a couple that are in the works with Cheerio boxes and papers and just this and that. And I've had one just, the last one was done out of just a piece of paper. So anyway, this is the front of the book. This is an old quilt piece. Now, all of my fabrics so far, I haven't had to buy stuff. It's just fabric that some of it that I've had for years and years and years, and some of it I bought for crafty things that my daughter and I did craft shows for 20 years, and we did what you call rag signs. So I have a lot of old rags left from that, and a lot of old lace and things like that. So far, all of my stuff is really it's old. It really is old stuff. So this is an old piece of cutter quilt on the back. This is a piece of tablecloth that I've just cut and ragged the edges. I cut just a little square off of it, then ripped it to rag the edges, stitched around the edges. Here's a paper clip, rusted paper clip. I'm getting a little better at that rusting stuff. I'll get it. Here's a safety pin with some buttons on it. That one's rusted. An old cloth doily, just some foo-foo on here. I wanted it to be kind of simple because grandmas back in the 40s and earlier, and even since then, we're not so much into doing things just perfect. They did things with what they had to do with, and you know, like now you'd go out and spend a fortune. Many do if they're going to make these books. But if Grandma was going to make an old book, she would make an old book out of just what she had at home. So this is inside the book, and this is the first page, and all, you know, there will always be original writings by me in here in all these books, probably. This is an old button. Love this button. It's almost like a leather top on it. There's another piece of that same old pillowcase. Just an old button. Many of you have seen buttons like that. Here's another original writing, like I started saying, got sidetracked. Within the pages of this book, a story will unfold of all of Grandma's best kept secrets and recipes of old. And then it just goes on and on. Here's a paper doily down here and some buttons and a piece of rag. And this is the first paper book. And you know how I love the paper books. This is paper book covered with fabric. I hope I get this in here. I noticed I didn't do so well on that the last time. There's a safety pin on that and a rusty bell. And this says, as much as possible, I tried to use writings and things in the book that sounded, you know, they just had a different way of talking back in the old days. So this is Grandma from the 1940s. So in the 1940s, a grandma would have been 70 years old in the 1940s. So, but they did have a different way of talking to some extent. And this says, "I found meself in the twilight of me years. As I look back on me life, I must think of myself how grand 'twould be if we be blessed with wisdom as a young'un that we have later on in our years." So, and it says, "So I write these words and share these collections, hoping that one day someone will come along and find this old tattered book filled with wisdom of the ages and put it to good use from Grandma with love." Oh my gosh, that just almost gives me goosebumps. I've told y'all I'm just gooshy to the bone. This is not put on. This is me. I mean, I am raggedy like this old book. I am a Raggedy Ann doll in a Barbie doll world. So let's see. This says, "Grandma's Pearls of Wisdom. We traveled paths we've yet to walk, learned lessons old and new, and now this wisdom of my life I'm blessed to share with you. Let kindness spread like sunshine and embrace those who are sad. Respect their dignity, give them joy, and leave them feeling glad. And it just goes on and on. Here's just a little bit of crazy cloth down here, some pearls. Here's a cameo up here and some buttons and some I don't know if that's crazy cloth. I think that's just some rags torn up. And some buttons. Another piece of old raggedy there. There's a Tim Holtz clip. And what was that in there for? Oh, it holds something on the inside. Okay. Let's go here because I'm sidetracked. It's late in the day again. So let's take this off. This is another paper book. But first let's look at this. Families are forever. There is magic in every day. Stay young at heart. There is magic in every day, and sometimes we have to look for it to find it, but it's worth looking for when you find it. Love. I've told you all that, gosh, if you'd walk around our grounds, I bet you'd find hundreds of little instances where you find the word love. It could be engraved in a fence. Or on a sign, or just anywhere. I love the word love, and I just have it everywhere. Now, it's not tacky. You'd have to be looking for it to see it, so it's, but it's there. Okay, let's see here. Well, let's see what this was on the inside here. Here's an old cabin. Here's some burlap and a piece of cloth and an old rusty pen and a couple of old buttons. That is crazy cloth right there. This is just made out of a piece of paper, but I've cut some newspaper out or torn it out and kind of distressed that a little bit more and put an old cabin on the front. Let's see what's on the back. Just some stamping. Okay, and this once again is that dirt roads. I did that in the last book, I believe, or the one before that. But this is the reading by Paul Harvey, and I love this. I've used this in so many things over the last couple of decades, and he just says what's mainly wrong with society today is that too many dirt roads have been paved, and we just wouldn't have as much crime and all the other problems if we didn't have so many paved roads. We need more dirt roads, he says. He says nobody would walk 5 miles to shoot somebody, and that's so true. Oh my goodness, we're just moving at too fast a pace. Okay, let's see. Let's take these things out real quick. And there's just, that's some paper in the back back there. And that's Hobby Lobby paper. And I just really distressed it, ironed it. And I like to even scorch things with the iron. I do that a lot. This is just a little note like Grandma would stick somewhere if this was her book. Now, Grandma would do this. She would have done this in the 1940s. I don't know if grandmas today would. I would still do it. But she just wrote a little note to herself in here, and she says, call Anna to see what she's bringing to the church social. And this one says, I owe Betty a cup of sugar. Well, don't forget to pay Betty back that cup of sugar, because I am sure she would just croak. Here's just a little, this is just a little journaling book. I've learned to use the punches to do some edges and things like that. And so that's just a little... just for journaling, for your journaling needs. And this is just a little insert. The back says, the more you know, the less you need. And that's so true. I love that little floral thing. Just a little bit of crazy cloth and some buttons and a flower up there. And this is a paper book. Is this the front or the back? No, this is the front. It has a little piece of lace here and a rusty pen and some buttons. Oh, it goes this way. That's why it didn't look... see, it's been ages since I've had this book open. So this says in here, if you want to bring happiness to the whole world, go home and love your family. Now, Mother Teresa said that, but boy, you talk about something that's true. That is absolutely true. Got to start at home. It takes a village, but you got to start at home. Memories are timeless treasures of the heart. I love that. I love the inside of this book. It's just very simple. A couple of paper flowers, and they're from Hobby Lobby, and I put a button in the middle. And then this is paper. Many of you have seen that paper at Hobby Lobby. I've got a lot of Hobby Lobby paper because I've been doing cutting and messing way before I started these journals for these videos. My husband calls this cutting paper dolls. He has a friend that calls him 1 or 2 times a week in the evening when we're just sitting around, and the friend always says, what's Katie doing? And my husband will say, oh, she's sitting over here cutting paper dolls. Okay, and this is just another little insert. Love one another. Just put a little foo-foo at the bottom. A little piece of lace, some paper flowers, a button. Okay, let's see what this is. And this says, oh, on the front is just a little stamp and a button and a little bitty piece of lace. And on the inside it says, home is the foundation upon which great civilizations are built. It is the sacred dwelling where souls are forged. Humans have great value. Children are cherished, and marriage is regarded as holy. I hope marriage is still regarded as holy. I'm a little bit afraid marriages are going to go by the wayside. Just everybody moves in together anymore. And, you know, I just, oh my gosh, I just don't think about it. Okay, let's see here. I'm falling apart again. Let's take these out so we can see what we got. And this is, I think I used the other half of this doily on another book, and I just put the other half here and made another swag, and made a little pocket there out of that. This is just some quilt pieces. This is an old cutter quilt in the back here. Let me just give you a span. I'm trying to get up closer. I'm having a terrible time to learning to do these. Just bear with me. Here's an old hanky. You can't have a grandmother's any kind of book without an old hanky there, an old handkerchief. Up here in this corner is just some lace and buttons and a little bit of crazy cloth and some lace in the background. And, well, let's see what this is before we take the other one apart, because I'll get them all mixed up. Okay, let's see here. This is just through a window. Looks like it may be on a porch, looking out the window onto the porch. And there's a paper doily on the background here. On the inside it says, everybody has a story. I used to have a newspaper column called Everybody Has a Story, and I love that because everybody does have a story. And I always said, I don't want to do anybody's story that is already in the news, no big business people, no politicians, nothing like that. I wanted farmers and grandmas and grandpas and little kids that did unusual things, and that was a very popular column at the time. This is just a heart cut out of chenille with a button on it, piece of newspaper in the back. This is some lace. I believe I got that at Hobby Lobby, but I've had it for years, or several years, and some buttons. See what's on the back? That's just a piece of newspaper stamped. So just tuck that there. And this is another little paper book. Let me see here. I'm all fumbles because it's been a long day already. Okay, this is some fabric in the back, and this is a piece of that baby quilt that I talked about the other day in the other book, and a button. This fabric I bought I remember buying this. I bought it in 1996, and I've used it for so many things. I think I bought about 3 or 4 yards of it because I loved it so much, but it was like a patchwork prints on the fabric, and I just fell in love with it. So this on the back says, time in a bottle. If I could save time in a bottle, the first thing that I'd like to do is to save every day till eternity passes away, just to spend them with you. Ooh, that just almost brings tears to my eyes because, oh my goodness, time flies. Savor every moment. And then a little heart cut out of a newspaper, little button. And that's all. Oh, there's the stamp. I love the little chicken, and I love the fern leaves. I bought those stamps. As I said, I bought 3 when I started doing these for the group and the videos. And I love chickens and ducks, and I've got ferns. I'll probably have 12 ferns hanging around the porch and in the trees and things. So I'll show you that one day. This is just an old image of an old window with no curtain and a kerosene lamp in it. Okay, see, I'm such a sap. Here I am, just getting weepy. Remember these words, regardless of the question, the answer is love. And oh my goodness, that is so true. Oh my goodness, I could go on about that, but and this just it's just an old rose that I really distressed, and then I ironed it and scorched it, and some lace and some paper flowers with some pearl. I like to put pearls in there to kind of highlight the flower, and I've had that in there so long it's tucked up, but I'll press it down. Another big pearl, some buttons, and let's see what this is. Okay, and this is an envelope that I've just covered in cloth, and I like covering the envelopes in cloth. I've even done a few in patchwork. There's some old buttons under here, a piece of fabric. That's a piece of a cutter quilt, and then some other fabric put on top of it. Just odds and ends of fabric, and then some old lace. There's some crazy cloth. And this is just another rose with a piece of lace and some a button, a paper flower, and a pearl. And it says, if you have good thoughts, they will shine out of your face like sunbeams, and you will always be beautiful. Well, I always have good thoughts, and I don't ever see myself stopping traffic because of my beauty, but anyway, that's a great saying. This is an envelope made out of newspaper, and I put a piece of lace up there and some crazy cloth down here, a button, a little paper flower, a little tiny pin. That one rusted really well. I love the little envelopes. Love making the little, whoops, I forgot to tuck this back in here. This says, just be kind. Simple. That's just as simple as it gets. Just be kind. Regardless of the question, the answer is love. Let's just be kind. Boy, that could work wonders. Let's see here. So let's move on along. Whoops, this page has fallen apart. Well, this went here in a paper clip, but in wagging everything out here, I messed it up, so we'll lay that aside for now. This is an insert, also a pretty big book, and I'm going to lay that aside for just a minute, but we'll get to them both in just a minute. Okay, and this is just another tuck in a paper clip, stuck in with a paper clip, and that's just an old image that I've scorched with the iron and baked in the oven and coffee dyed and all kind of things. It says we can't all be bright shining stars, but boy, we can all twinkle just a little bit, and yes, we can. No matter what problems you got going on, and we've all got our problems going on, but there's always somebody just a little bit worse off than we are, and if we can just remember that. We used to have a story in our house when the kids were growing up, and you know how teenagers are, they're always running to you and like it's the end of the world, and I would always say, okay, just calm down and tell me what is wrong. Is anybody dead or dying? And they of course would say no, and I'd say, okay, if nobody is dead or dying, there are at least 10 people within 10 miles of you right now who are not going to see the sun go down tonight or the sun come up in the morning. Now those people have a problem. So does that put it into perspective? Because now we're going to talk about yours. So, oh, they still talk about that. Okay, that's just a pocket made out of a newspaper. Got the little fern stamp on there. The baby blanket with the little bit of fabric and some tiny buttons. Love those tiny buttons. And I've got so many, and I've collected buttons for decades, but I use a lot of buttons in these books. So this is another piece of fabric. Don't remember where I got this fabric, but I love this fabric. On the back, I've stamped over the top of it, really kind of scorched it with the iron, and I put that yellowy button on there and rag the edges. I tear it so it won't be perfect. If you cut it, it's going to be straight, but I don't like it straight. I like it to look old, and the more raggedy it is, the more old it's going to look. So, okay, the inside says, she is an old soul with new style who wears black and speaks her mind. So powerful, she leaves her prints on everyone she touches because she is both a savage and a sweetheart. Okay, never let the thing you want make you forget the things you have. Oh my goodness. Many of us are wealthy in ways we don't even realize and understand. Let's look at this before we go with the insert books, the big insert books. This big old bow, people are going to be messaging me. I'm getting messages now, where'd you get this and where'd you get that? This big old bow has been in my junk drawer, my crafty junk drawer for 20 years, and I don't even remember where it came from, but it's a big old bow that's really made out of a doily. So goodness, we could do that out of any of our doilies, people that you people that are making your junk books. Just tie a ribbon in the middle and make a bow out of your doilies. There's an old what is it? It's a clothespin. And there's an old piece of cutter quilt. And this is just a doily, folded over, button down there in the corner, a piece of lace there too. On the back here, I forgot to mention this. This is just an oval doily. Many of you have seen these oval doilies. Maybe you have them if you collect them. I've just got tons of these. No telling how many I could come up with within 10 minutes in my big crates. Let's see. Did we go over these? I don't even remember. No, we did not. Okay. This says, the longer I live, the longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude to me is more important than facts. It's more important than the past, the education, the money, than circumstances, than failure, than successes, than what other people think or say or do. And then it just goes on and on. Well, you know, I collect sayings like that. I just love stuff like that. I don't know, it just does something to me. Those who wish to sing always find a song. That's true too. Love that image. That's talk about an old grandma image. Now that is an old grandma image. Okay, and this is just another little tuck, and the back says, "Merry heart doeth good like a medicine." Just a little piece of fabric, paper flower, some buttons, crazy cloth, more paper flowers, more fabric. I call that stuff foo-foo. Okay, let's do this little insert book first. Whoops, that's the back. Okay, I love bows. As you can tell, I put bows on everything. There's bows down the outside of the book. This is just a piece of paper. Made a little pocket here out of a piece of fabric. Put a button and some crazy cloth here, buttons here. This is another little insert, just one little piece here for you just to write a note or anything, or not do anything with. I wouldn't do anything with it. If it was me. I like to keep these things like they are. I would never write in one of my books, but some people like to, and that's okay too, because it's their book. Okay, and this just has a few pages for you to write in, or just whatever you want to do. Put your own little old-timey things in there. Okay, the bugs are starting to fly because it's getting late again. Oh my goodness. Oh, recording studio, aka workshop. Late at night, bugs. It all goes together. Okay, this is I wanted to put a real diary in here from Grandma. Grandma from 1942. So I thought as I was doing other work, how I was going to do the diary, and I really didn't know. So I started out just making a book, and there's some of that old fabric and that's a cloth doily, and I just glued that on the top. And I put a little piece of lace back here on the back, and then I did some decorating on the front of the book. Here's a little paper envelope. Let's see what this says in here. It says, "A kind heart is a fountain of gladness." Wow, we should all have kind hearts, and we should all be fountains of goodness and gladness. We really should. It's not that hard. Really. Okay, lots of buttons, lots of lace, lots of crazy cloth. Then I decided, I got to thinking, what am I going to do? Should I put a page or two from Grandma's diary? And I thought, nope. I'm going to do one page for each month of the year, starting in January. So this is January 2nd, 1942. And she starts out writing, now this is from Grandma with Love to her diary, 1942. She says, "Good evening, dear diary. It's been a long but grand day on the farm today, and I'm so glad to be at a point where I can hold you in my tired and worn hands and share my thoughts with you." Now she's talking to the diary as she's writing. She's writing these things in the diary, and it's late. I can't see. You can read that. I do have it smudged up pretty good, but you can read it. It's just late, and I'm 71, and I've been told I have cataracts. Now we're just trying to turn it around with some little natural healing. So I'm struggling to read some of these things. This is February 13th, 1942. And she says, "Dear diary, well, tomorrow's Valentine's Day, and the day they say we should set aside to show our love. Beats me that many folks don't realize what a better world this old world would be if we'd all take the time to show our love to those we love every day." And then she just goes on, and it just... down here she says, "We had the best pot of chicken and dumplings for supper. I must remember to thank the Lord for all those chickens, too. Why, my goodness, they supply our eggs for breakfast and for my bacon and some of our meat too. And I love having my own chickens. They're just a delight to watch, you know, and when I have time to set a spell. And then she says, well, dear diary, it's been a long day and this old body is full of tired old bones, so I'm going to sign off for now till tomorrow at just about this same time, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. And then this just goes on and on. Here's March 28th and April and May. There's one day for each month of the year, and I just wrote all this stuff. This is original writing, and I tried to write it like I thought Grandma would be thinking in the old days. You know, there was a war going on then, and she talks about the war and praying for the folks that have families in the war and how hard it must be on them. I just love that. I mean, I thought about selling that as a by itself, and I may make another one just to sell by itself. That is, to me, it's a treasure, even if I do say so myself, and I don't mean that to sound snooty in any way, for heaven's sakes. But, you know, a diary written by Grandma in 1942, and I really studied a little bit and tried to make it as authentic as I could. So here's another little paper book, and this is just some of the writing paper you've seen at Hobby Lobby. And a heart cut out of a chenille bedspread with a bow and a little tiny button. On the back is the little fern stamps and a heart stamp. On the inside it says, wherever you are, be there. And here's a big old clock, an old-timey farmhouse, paper, what is it, folks? Flour, that's what it is. Oh my goodness, I need a little sleep. Okay. This is just another little journaling book with just all kinds of papers in there. Everything is distressed. Everything I do is baked to distressed, coffee dyed, ironed, scorched. The more distressed I can make something look, the better the more it means to me. I don't think I'm going to take that off. That is just a tuck, and, well, it came off, so let's just, okay. Plant fairy seeds. You know, this was a fairy seed company back in the older days. I remember the fairy seed company. And your flower seed came in little packets like that. We are not what we say or wish. We are what we do. A lot of people need to take that to heart. We're not what we say. We're what we do. Okay. You can take that to the bank and get a good deposit. Okay, here's a piece of quilt. A lady showed up at the door one day and she said, I know you're making these junk journals, and I was going through my mom's stuff and I just want to give you some of these quilt pieces. And oh my goodness, I was just thrilled to death. I mean, I thought the Santa Claus had come. This is some old gloves. You can't have a journal either with that grandma's old white gloves in it. And I put them up here with an old rusty safety pin and some buttons on the safety pin. This is just a piece of cloth that I just tucked in there. Talk about tucks. That's a tuck cloth. So let's see what this is. This is a book made out of first paper and then covered with cloth and rickrack or lace around there with buttons. Well, the back is just the cloth and it's distressed, and it says, bring up a child in the way he should go. And that's just fabric right there. Has a little bit of print on it, some buttons, paper flowers. This is an old tuck made out of a doily. I used lots and lots and lots of doilies, some with flowers, some with knots, some crocheted, Battenberg, just all kinds. Paper flower down there, some lace, a big old pearl, just all kinds of stuff. A huge big old doily back here that I just distressed out of the way there. Here, let's see. There's a put those gloves back, and this is the book. And my goodness gracious, we are at 28 minutes. We have beat the clock by, oops, forgot to put that back, but I'll put it back in just a minute. We have beat the clock by 2 minutes so far. So all the information will be down below. I appreciate you all watching. I really appreciate all the comments. I'm getting so many private messages and things, and people just bragging on the books, and they have sold so fast so far. Knock on wood and praise the Lord. But I really appreciate it. I appreciate your kind words. I appreciate your patience and waiting and me trying to learn to do these videos. Oh my goodness gracious. So it's a thick, thick, thick old book. Let me move this back. Thick, thick, thick old book. Probably the thickest one yet. Down the binding, it's just those paper punch holes, and I've tucked some rags in there through all of the pages and made bows because I love bows. So that's it. It's a wrap, hopefully to goodness. This book is for sale. It will be, you can send me a private message, Facebook message. You can post whatever you want to do. Just let me know. Thank you all so much for watching. Go out and make this one of the best days you've ever had. And I just appreciate you all so much. Thank you. I love you all.